This is LOA Recon with Good Vibe Coach Jeanette Ma, where we explore the ins and outs of conscious creation to manifest our favorite dreams come true. Let's have some fun together. Welcome and thank you for joining me for another episode. Today I wanted to remind us all, myself included, that whatever it is we think is standing in the way of what we want, whatever obstacles or blocks we think are keeping us from our desires, they are only there because we thought them so. They couldn't exist if we weren't keeping them there through our attention to them. That's because our entire reality is dependent on us for its existence. Nothing exists outside of us attending it so, thinking it so. We just get fooled into thinking some of those things are real beyond us, but nothing is real beyond us. It can't be real without us. Nothing can manifest that we don't observe into existence. When we remember that, we can stop manifesting the obstacles that we thought were standing in the way of our desires. Turns out we're the only obstacles. Our thoughts, our attention, our focus, that's what's in the way. This is kind of a high-level, abstract concept, but here's an example from my real life, recent real life. The other day, the neighbor was walking the dogs and he brought his daughter with. I am in love with this daughter of his. She's just adorable. She was on the dog walk with them. And I'd been wearing, over the holidays, I found my favorite jingle ring. Oh my gosh, I love this ring so much. And it turns out it's my very last one. I had found these years ago. I was in Hawaii with a boyfriend. I had bought more than one because I love them so much. I bought some for friends and clients as well. But I'm down to my very last one. I've looked online before to try to find them. I can find some kind of like it, but not nearly as cool as this one. Anyway, I was wearing it when the neighbor's daughter walked by, and I just had this huge impulse to run out there and give her my ring. But it's my last one. I didn't want to give up my last one, but I thought she would love it too. So I immediately went online, hoping I could find some to order. Then I could catch her on her way back, give her this super cool ring, knowing I had more coming. I didn't love how stingy I was being about this. I knew it was a lack mindset, but I still didn't want to give up my very last ring. So my thoughts were, it's my very last ring. They're hard to find. I don't know if I can find another one. And thus, that was my manifestation. As I was looking and not finding, my thoughts were, they don't make them anymore. I can't find them anywhere. And of course, I'm not going to find anything with that mindset. But I had been thinking lately about what's standing in the way between us and what we want, because I could see it so easily in others. They're just completely making up reasons that they can't have what they want. They're completely made up, but they believe they're so real. It's so easy to see in someone else that it's just the beliefs that are blocking their way. Nothing real ever stands between us and what we want other than what we put there. So I'm thinking about that. I'm like, maybe this is a chance for me to practice removing my own obstacles. If I stop believing whatever is standing in the way, it cannot exist for me. It can only be there if I'm still focused on it, if I'm still creating it in my reality. I've been talking with clients about this lately, about how the reasons they think are so real they can't have what they want are not real. They're completely made up and they can make up something different. I thought this is my chance to practice it. So I imagined that those thoughts of mine weren't mine anymore. I just had this visual. They're sweeping them away like cobwebs out of the doorway. That's how flimsy they are. They seem real when we believe them, but they're only real because we've been propping them up through our attention. Without us and our focused observation of them, they can no longer exist for us. And this is true for everything that we think of as real. It can only be here because we thought it so, because we dreamt it, we believed it into being. Without us, it doesn't exist. Abraham has talked about this before, about this is why abandoned houses decline so quickly, because no one is there to keep them running in reality. No one's there to prop them up into existence. They just crumble without us believing them into existence. Anyway, I decided that my thoughts about how I can't find this ring were not my friend, so I gave them up. And then I put someone else on the job who didn't have the same mixed history that I did with thoughts about this most fabulous ring. So I asked I was going to say boyfriend, but every time I call him my boyfriend, he corrects me and says, domestic partner. It's official. The government recognizes us as domestic partners. Okay, anyway, I don't know why he keeps correcting me when I say boyfriend, but, I just thought yesterday I had a session with not just any energy worker, my favorite one. Oh my word. My most favorite, most reliable, most gifted energy worker said that she saw in my guy's whatever she saw, there was another woman there. Another woman. She said she's not ready yet, but very clear, very bright. Another woman who he had contracted to spend some time with. Oh, that ought to be interesting, I thought. I don't know why I just flashed on that. Okay, anyway, I asked Chad. I'll just call him. I asked Chad. I texted him a photo of my most fabulous jingle ring, and I asked if he could find this for me because I wanted more. I wanted to give this one away, but not until I had more coming. I didn't tell him that I had spent hours scouring the internet for this thing because I've swept those thoughts aside. They don't exist anymore. Instead, oh, these are such easy thoughts for me. Chad can find anything. He is so good at this. And of course it's easier for him because he didn't have the same blocks that I had. I was also thinking these rings are too fabulous for someone not to be making them still. So I got those thoughts going, and sure enough, within a couple minutes, he sent me a text with a ring that was close but not quite. I was like, it's close but not quite. Mine's different in this way. But I didn't get too discouraged because that is a thought that would not serve me. Why would I put that block in place to this manifestation that I wanted? So instead, I appreciated that he was on it, that he was taking my request seriously. And within just a couple more minutes, he had sent 2 more links that were the exact rings, the exact ones available for purchase in bulk. Ta-da! That was more proof. I know it's a little example, but anything is possible if we would just get cooperative with our desires instead of being the uncooperative component. That's what Abraham calls us sometimes, when we're thinking them or believing them out of reach instead of within reach. And I know this is just a cheap little jingle ring that I'm talking about, but this is the exact same principle for, just like the woman that the energy worker told me was in my guy's future. What do I want to do with that? This is the most powerfully connected energy. This energy worker, her track record with me is impressive. Really, really impressive. She is good at what she does. So, she says something like that, and I don't have any desire to not be with this guy. I really thought this is my last boyfriend. You know what? She did not correct me on that. Might very well be my last boyfriend, but I might not be his last domestic partner or whatever it is he wants to think of his love interest as. Okay, so, I could be thinking on this mystery woman, calling her, creating her into our reality, or I could think something else up, because nothing can exist without my attention to it. It cannot happen if I am not the vibration of it. And I don't really know what I would do there. Maybe it's not wrong that someone else would come into our world. Maybe I should help believe her into his existence, because for all I know, she's my spiritual BFF. And maybe on some higher level, I also want her to experience the incredible love that's possible with him. Maybe, or maybe not. Maybe I'll just keep my thoughts off of her or any other woman who could get between us. This is what I mean about being more disciplined about what we are conjuring into our realities. Nothing can exist that we didn't call in. I started this episode thinking that it's worth paying attention to the things that we've conjured that are already blocking what we want. I had another example. The other day, Harvey was swallowing in a way that I did not like. It wasn't normal. It wasn't natural. It did not look comfortable. It did not look right. I was concerned, especially because for a couple weeks prior, every once in a while, I hear him make a really bad coughing sound. I don't want to describe this too much for you. We do not need this in our heads. This would be me inviting you to join me in conjuring something that I do not want. So when he was having that trouble swallowing, I thought, okay, that's it. This is ridiculous. We're getting this checked out. Maybe if he weren't my forever true love, it would have been easier for me to just chalk it up to allergies or maybe a cough, but no, because it's Harvey, I went straight to things that I am not going to elaborate on. No one needs that in our heads. So it was in my head, and I needed to do something about it. I just thought this is going to be easier if I just get a professional to tell me that this is no big deal. So I decided to stop using my creative power to put obstacles to what I wanted in my own way, and instead use them in favor of what I wanted, which was a clear knowing that all is well with my true love, Harvey. So we went to the vet and I got my thoughts on board. Trust me, I'm not saying I got it perfect, but I also texted for help with friends that I knew were really good at this, at not worrying about things that were easy for me to worry about. But I really did do a good job with disassembling the thoughts that I knew were not serving me just by putting attention on what I did want. I did want, and I just imagined it. I practiced what it looked like, what it sounded like. And sure enough, that's what unfolded. The vet walked in after basically doing an x-ray that I insisted on. She was just going to send us home with meds for a cough. And I was like, I really, really need you to do more than just look down his throat. So she did an x-ray. She said, everything looks fine. And he's been fine ever since we got home. No more signs of any trouble. Look, this is easier to do before those unwanted blocks are manifested in our reality, but even if they are, you still have the power to create something different simply by withdrawing your attention to them. Stop being so aware of what is when you don't want it, because it cannot exist without you keeping it in your reality. When you stop thinking it, actually, it's not really right to think of it as stop thinking it, because when we try not to think it, we're still thinking it. Instead, we have to just think something else. Right? Because when you try to stop something, you just dig in deeper on it. Your attention is still on what you are trying to put an end to. So we don't stop thinking that. Instead, we start thinking something else. Because again, nothing can exist without your continued attention to it. So when you turn your attention away from it onto something that you prefer more, that's all we ever have to do. A lot of people in the world do not understand this concept, even some LOA savvy people who believe that if they don't do something about it, it'll only get worse. It can only get worse if we keep paying attention to it. You know, there's a legit discussion among leading edge scientists about whether the moon exists when we aren't looking. In fact, there's a really cool YouTube video. Let me tell you what that's titled. If you searched on, "Does the moon exist when no one is looking?" by Temple's Books and Science. I'll link to it in the notes. But anyway, my question to you is, what are you believing into existence that you don't want? Everything that exists is only here because we allowed it, because we attended to it, because we believed it into being. And I don't mean that in a blameful way. I mean it in an empowering way, in a liberating way. Because as long as we are capable of changing our minds, of shifting what we put our attention on, we can change what reality looks like. It's empowering. It's not blaming. It's not to lay fault somewhere. Just remember, we can't get rid of it. We can't get rid of anything because that pushing against just makes it stronger. But we can create something else because it all comes from what we focus on. Ooh, you know what? It just made me think of Christian Sundberg's, his book, A Walk in the Physical. Oh my gosh, hang on. I'm going to grab it. There's a passage I want to read to you. Okay. This is in a section called Rejection Closes the Door, Acceptance Opens It. He's talking about how who we are is greater than all form. Reality meaning form. He says this is not a metaphor or an abstract concept, that we actually surpass the entirety of our physical experience and all the form in it. Okay, he talks some more. Then he's saying, when you reject your experience, you are choosing illusory form over infinite formlessness. This is because when you reject something, you are choosing to stand against some form, and that can only be done as a form itself. Your consciousness ends up lending credence and solidity to the form that it is trying to stand against. As the form strengthens, so does the typically negative experience that comes with it. For instance, he says, if someone perceives what is occurring in the world as terrible and rejects it, then he or she will be giving energy toward that negative perception and will experience the negative constricting emotions that go along with that rejection. I thought it was a really helpful passage about just how powerful our attention is and how it is worth being more disciplined about where we point it. That's really what I wanted to say today. So when there's something that I don't want, when I turn my attention to something else, I pull the rug out from under the other manifestation that I don't prefer. And when I do that, reality shifts. And it's shifting according to our focus. All we ever have to do is be more deliberate, more discerning, more disciplined about what we're observing into reality. Remember how Joe Dispenza talks about our skills of observation? That's what we want to be, skilled observers, choosing consciously, deliberately. And all we ever have to do is be willing to change our mind, change what we're focused on, change what we're observing into existence. And I'm a Libra sun, so I'm exceptionally gifted at changing my mind, but anyone can be. It just takes a little practice. So please remember, whatever you think is standing between you and what you want, it's not a real thing outside of you that is blocking you. It depends on you for its existence. When you stop believing it to be there, it can't be there anymore. In fact, the newsletter that I send out on this subject was titled, "They Can't Live Without You. Releasing blocks to your desire is as easy as you think, or as hard as you think. We're making it all up ourselves." You can think it impossible, or you can think it easy. You can think it natural, or you can think it difficult. It's going to be whatever you decide. Isn't that cool? It's even more cool than my jingle ring. All right, thanks for listening. Hope you got some inspiration from this. Happy manifesting, everyone.